Hello friends, and welcome to episode 131, 131. You're a dirty one, aren't you? God, which one of you do I offend? I think I called Jeremy dirty last time. Frank, you're a dirty one, aren't you? How are you doing? How's your Dirty Wednesday going?
Dirty Wednesday is pretty great. Yeah, I'm pretty good. I have not showered today, so you did catch me. You did catch me.
Did catch you on a dirty Wednesday. We've been putting together the Noclip merch store, a brand new one. We have had merch in the past, but this is really going out there. It's got like cups and mouse pads and shit. And I was thinking about t-shirts, slogans and stuff. So I'm just kind of workshopping some of them. Dirty Wednesday shirt might come to the Noclip store based on one joke that was once made. Although I did the dirty thing last week as well. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just a one-trick pony. Jeremy, have you ever ridden a pony?
No, I've never ridden a horse. Have you?
Never ridden a horse?
No. When have you ridden a horse?
Why would I have ridden a horse?
Yeah.
Because they're beautiful animals that are majestic. And
I reject
powerful.
them. I reject them as beautiful.
Sweet but powerful, and they like to eat sugar cubes out of my hands.
In high school, the guy who I bought weed from would buy weed from a woman who worked at a horse barn at night, and so I would go to meet him at the horse barn, and we would smoke a blunt and pet the horses.
Wow. Okay. So in many ways, you've had more of an intimate relationship with horses.
I've had a cosmic relationship to horses. I don't need to ride them because we've had a connection on a deeper level. I respect them as a peer.
You won't ride one.
I refuse to, actually.
That way, yeah. Frank, you've ever ridden a horse?
I think so, like when I was 2 years old, but I have no memories of it.
Have you ridden a horse when you were 2, or were you just sort of like propped up on a horse?
Yeah, propped up on a horse. It was probably like a donkey. It was probably like so.
I don't know if I've, now that I'm like sort of analyzing it, I'm not sure if I've ever ridden a horse. I know I've ridden a horse, but like, I don't know if I don't think I've really ridden a horse so much as the horse was sort of Uber driving me around. You know what I mean? Like they knew what they were doing. I was the kind of weirdo.
You've never erupted into a full gallop after like a bandit to burst into a family party or something and you had to chase him down?
I've never seen like a homestead on the other side of the valley burst into flames and suddenly like turned my steed into direction and gone, go Cloud Spire, go in that direction. The one thing about being on a horse that is always shocking is when you get up on a horse, you're like, Jesus, this is a fucking tall animal. This is a big thing. So you get that when you stand near a horse as well. Do you ever like, I feel like I'm around horses a lot. When I was in like London, they'd use them as like police would ride on horses a lot. And you'd be like, I'm 6'1", and the horse is like higher than me. And I'm like, Jesus, you're big.
I feel like the most flagrant act and I say this knowing full well that the police do a lot of flagrant things. I feel like in the top 3 is the fact that their horses just shit on the ground when they ride their horses around. You know what I mean?
They just drop it. They're just like, I am the law.
Yeah, it's such a power. I feel like it's just a power move because couldn't they just get the little baskets?
Do they have to like have a little do they have to do that like when your dog takes a shit when you're on a walk and you have to like shamefully like, oh fuck,
but it's like a big trash bag. Yeah, it's a huge
put your hand
bag
in the bag so you're picking up the shit, but there's like the slightest layer of plastic that's making you feel slightly better about the fact that you're holding this warm turd that just came out of your animal. Yeah, that'd be harder with horses because they just fucking drop. I mean, those are big poops.
Big bags.
Big bags of poops. What's the worst animal poo, do you think? Some of them are like totally acceptable. Like I feel like rabbits and deer are very chill about the whole thing. I bet pigs. I don't think I've ever seen a pig shit because they're just covered in it, presumably.
Yeah, probably like elephant. Although, I don't know. I feel like probably some underwater. I feel like probably like a whale takes like a real shit.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't know.
I've seen YouTube videos. I think it's hippos where when they go, they spin their tail at the same time and it just goes everywhere. So I think it's hippos. It's like the craziest thing.
They're on like the sort of chaotic evil corner of taking a shit. I'm watching a video now of a hippo. Oh, you're right. Oh my god.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
It's like an AOE spell. It goes everywhere.
It is. It's like going everywhere. It must be like a territory thing. That's terrible. That's amazing. Oh my god. Anyway, speaking of shits, shout out to all of our amazing Battle Pass holders. Richard Matherson, welcome to the crew. James Brown, Jason Drury, Mark Rojas, Mike Cobb, Tucker Morgan, Crimson Cyclist, Sven Huster, Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Andy Fegan, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Cameron Ladd. Oh, very thoughtful one there. Alex Goucher, George Chakotis. Sorry, George. Stumbled there. Jacob Godserve and Tohir Tilyaev. Thank you all so much for your incredible patronage. If you'd also like to support this ad-free podcast, fund our documentaries, and get access to loads of stuff, including a tour of Infinity Ward during the Call of Duty 4, so the Modern Warfare development, you can become a patron over patreon.com/Noclip. I've started, because we're doing the tape thing. I was going to do it this week, but then Summer Games Fest was going on too long, and then the Reddit blackout happened, and I'm like, we really need this thing to like make motions. And next week we're doing the Stunt Derby demo, so I'm kind of stuck. And then Frank also made this really good video that's going to go up on Noclip's main channel about the mix event that happened in LA that got cancelled, and Gerard the completionist basically throwing together a last minute Hail Mary to save the event, and Frank was there for the whole thing. So we got a little 10-minute video going up on Noclip about that, probably right after this podcast goes up or is recorded. Because all this shit was happening, I'm like, okay, the tapes might have to wait. But one of the things we're doing, where we're mixing up the tiers on Patreon, is we're adding we're going to, like, for the early access patrons who usually get early access to documentaries, I'm going to just slide them early access to some of these tapes as well, like once or twice a month. So they're now watching. There is on one of the tapes I found is Vince Zampella and Jason West, the two gentlemen who would later be fired from Infinity Ward and go on to found Respawn Entertainment. The two of them back in, 2007 it must have been, before Call of Duty 4 came out, which is arguably the biggest Call of Duty, the one that changed the world, doing a little studio tour of Infinity Ward. Lots of drop ceilings and guys wearing hoodies, as you'd expect. So it's something else. We keep finding amazing shit on these tapes, and we'll get them out into the public pretty soon. We have a lot to talk about. A lot of games came out. We played a lot of games. Lies of P, the We Love Katamari remake that's come out on modern consoles, a bunch of other stuff, but mostly we're here to talk about, debrief a little bit on Not E3 2023, Summer Games Festival, Jeff Keighley's video game whorehouse. Come on in, play the games, leave your keys at the door, and experience pleasure in a way that only video games will allow you to do. We have a list here of video games to talk about. They're in order. They're in absolutely no order, so we're just going to jump around a little bit. I'm going to start it, though, if you don't mind, with a game I cannot stop calling Life of Pi, Lies of P. Frank, did you also play this?
I haven't played this, but I've seen this demoed at PAX, and every gameplay reveal or trailer of it is like, "Ooh, this looks really cool," and
okay.
It might be a Game Pass game too.
Jeremy, Soulsborne enthusiast. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, no, it's the Pinocchio Souls game.
It is.
I have not played the demo for it. It looks very polished. It looks so. The reason I have not played it is that it looks so Bloodborne inspired that it hinges on. I don't want to. I feel like the word derivative is so insulting because this game might be fucking awesome. It's just there's something when it looks so when it wears its inspirations that overtly on its sleeve. There's some. I need a little extra to get me in the door. You know what I mean? And Pinocchio was not that hook.
Pinocchio was not the hook. I assume Pinocchio is involved because I assume Pinocchio is public domain. That's what I think. I imagine this is a Sherlock Holmes situation where that is why Pinocchio is involved. There is one. I'm looking at one screenshot now. I'll put it in our Discord later or something. That could not be more blood. Like if I had seen this, I would have thought this is Bloodborne. I think it's because the weapon that he's using here looks particularly like the sort of scythe you have in that game. yeah, Lies of P. It is a does not even attempt to, in a way that I kind of respect. It does not attempt to wander away from the Soulsborne like mechanisms in any way, to the point where when you play this game, it legitimately feels like a From game. Like the animations, the walking, all the buttons are the same. You know, there's a little bit of difference with how the inventory works slightly. They just have like two little sort of, things you can select from, instead of the four-way, I guess, that I think is on most of them. Elden Ring may have colored I may be forgetting how Demon Souls worked, but it is like you said, it is set in a sort of a Bloodborne ass-looking, mid-century European city kind of thing. The enemies are all puppets, I guess, but like, they're like little robot people, but I guess puppetry and puppets and Pinocchio in his nose. I don't know. There's like all part of it. Your character looks like Timothy Chalamet. That's you play Pinocchio. You have a little light box, which I guess is Jiminy Cricket. So like everything has like a little reference to Pinocchio in it. The hot IP Pinocchio that we all know and love. And yeah, it like plays unbelievably close to its inspirations in a way that like I said, I'm okay with it. There are loops around, like to the point where like I was in the level and I was turning the corner and I was like, there's a motherfucker hiding behind this door. Like, when you're playing the From games, you just kind of know it. You're like, there's probably someone there. And I did, and there was a guy right there. And it was like, yeah, like they know exactly what they're making. And it feels good. The boss fights are fun. The demo's not super long. There's a big boss. There's a couple of mini bosses. There's a couple of things to explore. There's a couple of bosses, I guess. I guess there's only one real boss. The other ones are mini bosses. Yeah, I would recommend people go check out the demo. I think it's on everything, the demo is, and it pretty much sold me on it. Like, to me, it feels like, when like you're waiting for a big game to come out. You know what it reminds me of, actually? Do you remember when we were waiting for a Grand Theft Auto to come out on Xbox 360 and it was taking forever, and then Saints Row came out? And we were like, you know what? That'll scratch the itch for a while. That's kind of what I feel like Lies of P is like.
Who are some other public domain characters you'd like to see a Souls-like game of?
Oh, God, that's a great, yeah.
I've got a list.
Do you have a
here.
list?
Yeah.
Please.
I've got a few
Okay,
suggestions.
go.
I think Winnie the Pooh is a recent addition to public domain.
Dude, have you seen that horror movie?
Yeah, the Parasite thing or whatever?
No. There's literally a Winnie the Pooh in the name horror movie.
Yeah, he turns into like a big parasite or something, right?
Oh, is it? Okay.
I don't know. I saw his guts. Oh, not Parasite, the Bong Joon-ho movie.
That's what I was. Yeah.
Which does not feature Winnie the Pooh, as far as I know.
It's called Winnie the Pooh: Blood and Honey. I don't think it's very good. It has 3 out of 10 on IMDb.
Okay, we should watch this, though. It doesn't have anything to do with video games, but we should watch this for the podcast.
Winnie the Pooh. Okay.
Let's see. We got Frankenstein's monster. Unironically, that'd be a really good Souls-like. Is a Frankenstein's monster castle.
Just like bolting different weapons onto yourself and shit.
That's amazing. Yeah. But they only bolt to your forehead. King Arthur seems like a little too easy. Peter Pan would be actually. Peter Pan might actually be good. Yeah, Mickey Mouse seems like an obvious one.
Wait, Mickey Mouse is public domain?
I don't know. He's on this list. He was created in 1928, so public domain is. I thought it was.
Yeah, but that's not how it works.
Yeah, you're right.
When you're Disney.
Yeah. Oh no, you know what it was? Steamboat Willie, I think, went into public domain recently, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So,
but yeah.
It's tricky waters. But yeah, there's.
Yeah, I wonder if the look. You're right, because there is that. Remember that first-person shooter we talked about a couple weeks back that was like kind of looked Steamboat Willie-esque?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah, I guess Cuphead is kind of a little bit derivative of some of that stuff too.
Yeah. I think the problem would come in when you used Steamboat Willie verbatim, and he was looking like Mickey Mouse there.
Yeah.
All right, best one.
That wasn't even Mickey. That was the other. Was it Mickey? I forget. What was the other one he had? There was a version of Mickey before Mickey he had. It's called like
Oswald the rabbit.
Oswald. That's that's what it was. Sorry, it was a rabbit.
My last suggestion would be a Bugs Bunny Souls-like, and he's
that's it.
He's constantly he's painting the tunnel and
weapons,
shit.
yes.
Yeah, the Acme weapons, exactly.
That'd be awesome.
Bunch of fucking guys with like long fucking blunderbusses going, "I'm gonna get you, wabbit."
I want this game now.
Yeah, you do a spell and it ties the gun up into a little bow and it
Yeah.
explodes. That
so good.
would be amazing.
Okay, delete this podcast. Let's go make that game.
Yeah. Liza P. That's a game. Let's go to one of Jeremy's. Let's go Beastieball. This did hit its Kickstarter goal, didn't it?
I believe it did. It was very close when I last checked.
Awesome.
Yeah, Beastieball is a turn-based, like volleyball-based RPG, and that has kind of like Pokemon influence. You're collecting monsters and raising them up, and maybe like a little Persona thing is the vibe I got. Like you're kind of curating relationships between you and the beasties, and between the beasties and one another. And the thing I like about this game is I feel like there's not enough RPGs that do tournament arcs. I really like tournament arcs in storytelling and in RPGs. I love a game where they're like, all right, you suck, but here's this, here are the best people in the world at the thing you want to do, and you can kind of be in like the low ranks and work your way up until you're one of the greats. I think that's such a video gamey arc that I love when it's one of my favorite arcs in classic Dragon Ball where they go to the fighting tournament and it takes like 400 episodes. Yeah, so I just
Pyre gave me a little bit of that as well.
Yeah,
remember
totally.
Back in the day,
yeah.
This is Greg Lubanoff, who made Chicory and Wonder Song. Is that right? Am I getting that right? I think so. Wonder Song, which was a singing game, kind of rhythm thingy, pitch game. Beastieball got a 69,000 of its 67,000 goal 5 days into its Kickstarter, so it is going to get made. Is Lena doing the music for that as well?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay. Friend of Noclip. Lena Rain also doing the music for that, so pretty cool. Listen to some of her sick tracks on that. Anything else to say about Beastieball?
Not really. I think it looks just good. The team from the trailer was kind of the team talking about the game, and it just seemed like, I don't know, you ever watch someone talk about something they worked on and they're not trying to sell it too hard to you. They just seem genuinely excited about the thing they're working on. I just got a sense that everyone working on this game felt like they had something special on their hands, and the game is just like cute and fun looking.
Beastieball, check it out. A lot of these games are on Steam. Go hit that wish list. I want to quickly, because I got a bit of a bigger list here, I'm going to jump back to me just for a second to quickly talk about Monkey Island in Sea of Thieves. You see this shit? I have to play Sea of Thieves now. I never played that game. I kind of tried to play it a couple of times and kept putting it off. They're putting a straight up. Oh, sorry, Jeremy, you were copy pasting it, and I cut the word out of our doc.
Oh no, it's all right.
So I guess there is I think it's multi-chapter, I think it's free, I don't know, DLC coming to Sea of Thieves, based on Monkey Island, but this is not just like, a skin or like Melee Island, the island. It seems like a straight up, there is like Dominic Armato's doing the voice of Guybrush Threepwood. It's definitely based on Secret of Monkey Island, the first game, because Stan is there and Voodoo Lady's there. The men of low moral fiber are there. The three pirates in the scum bar. It's like all 3D. It has the trailer has so many different places from that first game in it. It has are they Pagliani brothers? I forget, the two Italian guys who run the circus that need you to go through in the canon. Like everything's in here, and it is it says it's play a new original story for free, and it's coming out, the first one, on July 20th. So you've got a month. In my case, I've got a month to get good at Sea of Thieves, and then I am definitely going to play some of this and probably either stream it on the Noclip channel or do some video for it over on Crew, because I love me some Monkey Island. So that's an exciting thing. Monkey Island in Sea of Thieves. Frank, dealer's choice. What do you want to pick from your 5 games you got here?
Yeah, the thing I've been legitimately very excited for is Mortal Kombat 1.
Oh yeah.
I still play Injustice 2. Like those NetherRealm Studios games are so fun and smooth to play in a way that's different than Street Fighter. I'll play Street Fighter competitively and get into it and learn the systems. Mortal Kombat just feels, I don't know, it's so cool. Everything cracks and snaps. It's such a I don't know. It's like eating rock candy. It's like all the combos, the fatalities and stuff. So seeing the new Mortal Kombat, there's so much fan service because they're essentially rebooting it. And the thing that really sold me on it is kind of like Marvel vs. Capcom. They're having cameo characters in there, so you can tag in
with a K.
Oh yeah. Everything is spelled with a K. But seeing all the cameo characters is cool because it's like it's a way of them inserting, fan favorites without fully putting them in there, but maybe they'll put them in there. So it was cool to see like Stryker, which is an old school character, which like I don't think they could
Stryker,
put
the guy he's just a cop with a gun.
He I think when like in Mortal Kombat 9 when he walks in, he comes in, he says police brutality. Like that's his motto.
God.
Like it's like whoa, but it's so awesome. So I was just very happy.
He was Mortal Kombat 3, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah. And he had guns and grenades.
Good.
And even seeing like Jax and Sonya Blade, and I think even Kano, they had their old school Mortal Kombat 1 costumes in it. It's also just
Jax was only in Mortal Kombat 2.
That's right.
But he doesn't have his metal arm yet in this one. So it's like a prequel Jax we're getting.
Yeah, it's all timeline stuff, so it's crazy. So I'm just excited because like Mortal Kombat is my first video game memory. It was Mortal Kombat 2. Like
nice.
So yeah, it's always been a huge series in my heart. Maybe that's my Monkey Island.
Right.
So it's like also like I feel like we're on a wave. Like I don't know, the new Mortal Kombat movie wasn't great, but it wasn't bad.
It was
so
pretty
I'll take it.
Yeah. I went in with very low expectations, and it was way better than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can't blame it either. Yeah, it looks interesting. I'm with you. I think it's like whenever we had like house parties and had people around to then like put on a game to play. Like Street Fighter was a game that like you had to like kind of teach people were like kind of trying to figure it out. Whereas like somebody who like never plays games picks up Mortal Kombat and they get it. They just are happy to just beat the fuck out of people. It's a good time. It's an easy game to pick up.
And then.
Sorry,
go for it.
I was just going to say, did you guys know that the voice of Curtis Stryker, the Mortal Kombat cop, in Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm, the 90s animated series, was Ron Perlman?
Oh, nice.
That
seems
very
below his
appropriate
pay grade.
voice.
Yeah.
I was going to say below his pay grade, but damn, I bet that was a good voice performance.
Smashing voice.
Yeah.
Wow. Apparently, Jean-Claude Van Damme is going to be. Is he playing Johnny Cage or what's the story?
Yeah. So it's like I think it's the pre-order incentive or the deluxe incentive is you will be able to have Jean-Claude Van Damme as a skin for Johnny Cage.
Terrific.
And the origin of that is
Voiced.
like holy shit. They model Johnny Cage after the arrogance of Jean-Claude Van Damme, and they even I think wanted Jean-Claude to play Johnny Cage in the movie.
They did.
And he didn't. He snuffed at them, so it's so cool. Like
He was like, no, I'm gonna go be Guile.
yeah. So I don't know. That's like I don't know. Even extra fan service. So I'm so excited. So that's gonna be awesome. And then the funniest thing is always like what crazy DLC characters they're gonna put in. Like they had Spawn in the last one. They always have really insane choices. So I'm interested to see what the DLC characters will be.
Awesome. I'm gonna do two very quick hits, and I'm gonna go to Jeremy. They announced a Twisted Metal TV show, which was just like who the fuck wants that? The rich lore of Twisted Metal, like. I'm very confused about that. There's some like weirdness around the Twisted Metal IP. Like those games weren't bad. There was like they were good fun. They weren't that great, and they definitely didn't have like name another character that's not Sweet Tooth in Twisted Metal. Like I'm sure somebody can. Are you like? What did you make of that, Frank? I was very confused as to why you would like. Are we scraping the barrel already with TV shows?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because like the peak of Twisted Metal is like you do get these like 30-second cutscenes that are ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
like, they make an offer with Calypso, but they're great for 30 seconds. To extrapolate, like, I don't even know, 22-minute runtime, 30-minute runtime of that. It's like, oh no, this is gonna be so. Well, the problem too is with the scene they showed was like the weirdest like 2004 humor.
Yeah,
It was just like. Who is this for? Like, I don't know.
And what's like that actor? He's in the Avengers. He's like
Anthony Mackie.
Yeah. So I don't know who he is. Yeah,
Soldier, whatever. Captain Falcon.
It just seemed very. I don't know. Somebody's into it, I guess. The other one they showed on the Microsoft one, which was mostly, it was either entirely CG or. I think it was probably entirely CG. Some of the shots were like, if that's what the game actually looks like, that'd be unbelievable. It was Fable, starring Richard Ayoade had who was doing the voiceover and I guess played a character. A smart trailer, had an interesting sort of like twist in the trailer. I heard a lot of people complaining that they did not like the humor. I think if you like him or are familiar with his humor, like a lot of people in the UK and Europe and Ireland probably are, maybe. I actually liked it, but I get like when there is dialogue that's annoying, it is such a barrier. So cool to see the Fable's getting worked on, but obviously fuck, I don't know. We'll play that in 2032 or something. Jeremy, what else you got on your list?
Yeah, before we move on, I have to complain about the humor in the Fable trailer slightly, despite being a fan of his. I thought it was weird that he's like a giant and he wants to smash the little human that's in his house, right? But they have the awkward moment where he's like, this is awkward, and she's like, this is awkward, and they make eye contact. Why doesn't he just like ask her to leave? He clearly recognizes her as a small sentient being. Why does he then... They have like a moment of genuine pathos, and then he immediately tries to kill her. I don't understand.
You're right.
It seemed like weird. The character motivation fell apart for me. That was
you're right. It didn't make much sense. You're right. Yeah.
I feel like they wrote that and then they acted it out, and someone was like, I mean, yeah, I guess this kind of works. But anyway, so this is my small gripe. I also love Fable, so we'll see. Let's see. Dread Pilots looked interesting to me. This is a Sid Meier's Pirates inspired game by Clay, who did Don't Starve and
you're kidding.
Oxygen Not Included was the other
one?
Yes. And Griftlands, which was really interesting. So this kind of looks like it takes a lot of has a very similar visual style to Griftlands, actually. But it is you're like a smuggler, kind of like Han Solo, space pirate, going from A to B to C, carrying stolen goods and doing dastardly deeds and all sorts of space pirate shit. It seems really, really cool and interesting. And Clay, they seem to make very what's the word? Like restrained minimalist decisions with aesthetic and with kind of a lot of elements of the game so that they can kind of maximize things. Their games always present as like they're made very efficiently so that they can feel larger in scope than they would otherwise or something. So I'm hopeful that this game could be like weirdly huge as a world or something.
All their games are sorry, you're saying as in like the world that's in it. I hear what you're saying, like Don't Starve and Oxygen Not Included. They're like games that sort of look like they're simple but are actually like incredibly deep and systemically deep or big or broad or whatever. They have a formula. Their games sell so much. Like, it is shocking when you see how... I think Oxygen Not Included is like not a game that you get people talk about much. It has 94,000 overwhelmingly positive review. I keep saying the number and then the review as if all of those people have done that. Yeah. 94,000 reviews on Steam and it's overwhelmingly positive, which is like pretty crazy. We did an interview with Jamie Chang, who's the founder of Clay, on Noclip back in 2020. Super down to earth, nice guy. And those games are massively successful. That studio is, I think, too. So, but like you said, it's not like they've gone to make these like big 3D games, these big AAA, things. They keep making these like very mechanically interesting like experiences. Like, and not all of them are for me, but I always give them a go. I always trust Clay to like make something interesting for somebody, and maybe it's for me, maybe it's not.
And something super different. They have so many different genres of games. Like Invisible Ink is so different from Griftlands, is so different from Don't Starve.
And those games are all different in their own way as well. Like Don't Starve is I guess it's a survival craft game, but when it came out 10 years ago, it was like, what is this? Yeah. Like, it's like kind of Tim Burton-y. It's like 2D, 3D. And then they just like they did the live services thing before anyone making indie games did. You know what I mean? Like some people were doing that, but they were adding DLC and free stuff and seasonal stuff to Don't Starve forever, Yeah. Oxygen Not Included as well. I think there's like, there's like 8 expansion packs or something. It's just insane. Dread Pilots. Okay. I'll keep that on the list. While we're talking to you, can we talk about Baby Steps?
Yes. Oh my God, this is probably my number one game of the weekend of a million games.
Trailer of the week for sure.
Oh, 100%. And also, it's so rare to see a trailer for a video game that leans into humor and is actually legitimately very funny. Like,
yes,
it wasn't that kind of like, I see what you're going for and kind of like winking a nod. This was like legitimately, it killed me. I could not stop laughing. So this is the new game from Bennett Foddy, who did famous for QWOP, as well as Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, as well as being the bassist for the band Cut Copy, who I saw live in like 2012 or something.
Oh, wow.
So Bennett Foddy and I have crossed paths many times. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, he makes kind of like weird, challenging, very kind of like games where the control of your character is very unconventional, where you're kind of controlling each individual movement, and the games become about how clunky it is to move the character around, and kind of the weird, extremely low skill floor and high skill ceiling of these weird controls. And so Baby Steps seems to transpose that formula onto like a big Strand-like game, dare I say?
Yeah, so you are controlling a man who is, I guess, dressed. He's a full-grown man, but in the lore of the world, he is a baby, and he basically is walking like he's a baby, like he does not know how to walk. And you're, like you said, Strand game, trying to basically, presumably, go from A to B, like so many of Better Foddy's games, but in a much more visually rich 3D environment. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it looks really good. It seems like it's going to be kind of a similar type of just like, I don't know what the word is. That his games always are just very immersive to me because they're so about the moment-to-moment gameplay. They're not like I feel like when you play a game, typically the controls become so familiar so quickly that you almost forget about the controls. They become second nature. And Bennett Foddy's games are often about the controls the entire time. Like up until the very last jump of getting over it, if you ever beat getting over it, you're constantly thinking about the controls because that's the entire game, and they punish you so hard if you kind of like lose that sense of mindfulness. So yeah, I'm interested to see what he can do with a bigger world. I really like his design mentality. Throughout getting over it, there's this monologue playing of him talking about kind of challenge and game design, and he addresses the fact that it's a streamer game. It's one of those games that's incredibly hard, like Jump King, where it's more people watched someone play Jump King or Getting Over It than actually played it themselves, presumably. And he talks about how that creates like this unique experience. He directly addresses the player and says, like, if you're hearing this, you may not even be playing this game. You're probably just watching someone play it. But if you're the person playing this game, I want you to know that like you're doing something special. You're having this experience and pushing
That's
through.
cool.
And I really like the way that he seems to have this sense of the way that games can kind of transcend what they seem to be on the surface.
Baby Steps. If there is one trailer you should watch, pause the podcast or after this podcast, Baby Steps, go check it out.
Yeah.
Let me pick one from mine. Just in terms of, I guess, games. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to go straight for the jugular. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. Holy shit. Did you guys see the trailer for this?
Yeah. This is the one with, what's his face from Like a Dragon, which I've only played the first 2 hours of, so I forget his name.
What's his name again, Frank? Do you remember?
Ichiban.
Ichiban, yeah.
There's a new Like a Dragon coming out. The trailer, now that I mentioned it, this is also a trailer you should 100% check out. He wakes up on a beach naked. Is it a beach in America? Are they now in America? What's happening?
Yeah, I think it's Hawaii. I would guess it's Hawaii.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Which is awesome because I think this is the first time a Yakuza game has like, taken place in America.
Oh my god!
So now I can't wait to see their lens. Like
yes.
Oh my gosh!
Fish out of water. Stranger in a strange land. Like just the fact it was so jarring because when they all started speaking English, and then I was like, whoa. Of course, like he's like, and who knows? Maybe it's just like one tiny part of a level or something. But I'm with you. If this is a game. As much as I really love those games, and as much as I love walking around their little fake Akihabara again, what's it called? What's their little
Kamurocho?
As much as I love that and like experiencing the height of Japaneseness in those games, that sounds very funny to me. Like just getting to play with those guys, but in America sounds, because you're right. Like they're so good at pulling these weird tropes. Like for them to do that in the States would be very fun, I think.
I can't think of another game that's set in Hawaii either.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Tony Hawk's Underground 1 has a Hawaii level.
There you go.
But that's just one stage.
Good pull. That was good.
Yeah, that was impressive.
There's a lot of Hawaiian food places up around here, Jeremy. I didn't realize Sonoma, like way more than Oakland and San Francisco. There's a bunch of like, if you want spam on some sushi rolls.
Hell yeah, some spam musubi.
Yeah, there's a lot of that around here.
Hawaiian food's really good. Just get
wild how much they like
katsu,
spam.
a ton of rice, and a mountainous scoop of pasta salad.
Dude, yeah. Okay, so I went to a Chinese restaurant with my wife on Sunday, just a hole-in-the-wall place that had just opened up, I think, north side of Petaluma. And they had a bunch of the spam stuff, but it was definitely a Chinese restaurant. But then I ordered their katsu, and first of all, it was the largest amount of katsu I've ever seen in my life. It was fucking huge. I ate it for like 3 days, and they had a huge wad of rice, and then they had pasta salad. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? So is that a Hawaiian kind of vibe on katsu or something?
I've only ever had that combination of 3 items at Hawaiian places. Yeah, what's the chain? I used to go to this place in El Sobrante.
L&L Hawaiian.
L&L, that's
Yes,
it.
L&L.
So
Yeah.
good.
Oh my God,
There's
L&L so good.
I love it.
I've not been. There's one here in Novato, and I think there's also one in Petaluma, and there's probably one in Santa Rosa.
Oh, go get it. It's so good. Get the
L&L.
sweet sauce that comes with the katsu is really good.
Okay. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. I think that place was like a hidden. I guess it makes sense. There must be some like what is Hawaii? Other than a place that a bunch of people lived on, and then a bunch of other fuckers turned up and stole all the land and brought their food. That was the exchange. They were like, we're going to build all these hotels, but you get spam. And then from the other side, they were like, I don't know what the Chinese influence was. They probably didn't build as many hotels as the Americans, but they were like, you know what, you can have katsu as well. Or Japanese, sorry, you can have katsu.
I used to have a T-shirt that I got at a thrift store, and I have no idea what the origins of this T-shirt are, but presumably it's some sort of anti-colonialist idea behind it. But it was just a huge picture of an AK-47, and it said "Defend Hawaii," and it was my favorite shirt I ever had. I don't know where it is now.
I remember, I remember you wearing that or something. It's
Yeah.
ringing a bell.
Yeah.
Defend Hawaii. It's very my wife has a shirt that says "Ski Iraq," and has just like a skier. It looks like an 80s skiing shirt, but it has "Ski Iraq" written on it.
It's a good
which also, both of them are like confusing messages though, because "Defend Hawaii" is, like you said, is presumably Americans defending Hawaii. So it's kind of, there's a dissonance there between.
I always got the sense that it would be a shirt if you were like a Hawaiian native and
Okay.
you were wearing it to defend Hawaii from
Oh,
the American military bases that are putting lead paint into your groundwater.
You're right, because you said it was an AK-47,
Yeah.
which is kind of like the gun of the, anti-American gun,
Yeah.
the gun of child soldiers the world around.
True. Absolutely true.
Whereas the Ski Iraq shirt, as much as I liked it, it did seem a little bit like a shirt you'd see in like a Gulf War movie directed by Paul Verhoeven.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like it's a little bit like these are the shirts that get sold in America while we are, sucking oil out of the ground of this this country we've bombed the fuck out of.
True.
There's a bootleg I saw online, and I kind of want to get it. I don't know if it was an authentic shirt or if it's just a meme, but it was a shirt of a Ninja Turtle, like Raphael or one of them, and it says "Gulf War, my dad was there." And it's just a Ninja Turtle, and so I think that was like one of those, because you see like Simpsons Gulf War bootleg shirts, but I kind of I don't know. Gulf War merch is always cool.
A friend of mine growing up, Shane Quinn, had a huge picture of like Bikini Atoll, or one of the South China Sea, what do you call them? Like nuclear blasts, right? That were done by like the French. Was that, I forget what the Bikini Atoll was. Was that actually in the South Pacific? Maybe, might have been in the South Pacific. So he has a huge and Simpson style, he had just written across it, "Nuke the whales." It was great. And every time somebody would come in and look at it, he'd say, gotta nuke something.
I got one more T-shirt. My ex-girlfriend bought a T-shirt when we were on a road trip one time. That was you can get these all over the Southwest. I'm not sure where they originated, but it said it was a picture of a bunch of like an old like steel tin photograph, the old school photographs from the 1800s of a bunch of Native American dudes holding guns, and it said I believe it said Department of Homeland Security above it, which was another fantastic anti-colonialist T-shirt.
Yeah, and also deeply sad.
And also incredibly sad, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I always have this like odd kinship. I've said sure like people around the world who feel like anti-colonialist or underdog in some nature, but as an Irish person, it feels very like my generation is like the third generation of people who managed to like own our own country because we managed to get the fuckers out. Like it took 600 years, but eventually we got rid of the colonialists. I mean, they have a little bit of land up north, but like generally they fucked off. We painted all the letterboxes green and we got to speak Irish and put it on the fucking signs again. So I've always felt like very, very lucky and very deeply sad about when I see the state of Native Americans, what they were sort of left with, and also like how we were just so lucky because of geography, and like it was just, you know, hard to fucking keep Ireland probably because it was just this piece of land that was not too big and was like isolated. But also when I think on that, I go like, but like also Irish people are products of like loads of fucking colonialism, of like historical, you know, of like fucking Saxons and like the Vikings, and like, and everywhere is in a way. And like, will people give a shit about that stuff in 400 years? Probably not. And that's kind of also fucked up. But anyway, I'm no historian, so, or sociologist. I'm here to talk about video games. So let's get back on track here. I went last. So Frank, can you tell me, oh, this is such a Frank game. I'm not going to talk about Sonic Superstars. Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora. Frank, tell us about Jim Cameron and the wonderful people at Ubisoft.
I completely like missed the Ubisoft and I slept past it, and then I saw
it was very boring. It was not a good show.
I saw that James. I saw people also posting that it was very old school E3, like bad presentations, bad like there's people dancing, doing Just Dance stuff. That's the good stuff.
They didn't quite have Mr. What was his name?
Mr. Caffeine, I think.
They didn't quite have him. But they did have Yves Guillemot come out at the end. And you're like, Jesus Christ, you guys just don't care about the news, right? All right. Fucking hell.
But yeah, James Cameron was there to talk about how him and Lightstorm Entertainment, they have been giving assets to Ubisoft to make an open world Avatar game of our dreams. You can fly around. You can be on the world of Pandora. You can learn the way of water. Your skill tree looks like the Avatar Tree of Life. Good or bad, I love this kind of kitschy, like movie tie-in licensed cheese. Like it's such an amusement park. And I always tune out of Ubisoft games, but if this is just Far Cry Avatar Edition, I'm all in. It looks cool. You're shooting rocket launchers at helicopters and stuff. So yeah, that was enough. The fact that James Cameron was, I mean, not present, he made a little video record, like a cameo. I'm very happy. So that looks cool. Still skeptical. Comes out December. But I wonder if the game gets delayed like the movies. I don't know. But
it is funny how I was completely disinterested and my eyes glazed over, and then somebody on Twitter said Avatar Far Cry, and I went, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about any Avatar story stuff at all. But if you're telling me there's a big open world and a bunch of checklists, and I get to, I don't know, stick my fucking dreadlock into some flying animals fucking Matrix port dreadlock, I'll go for it. Why not? Let's do it. I want the controller to rumble when we fucking
link up.
Link when we fucking, what's it called in Pacific Rim when we
oh man.
What the fuck? I said this term last week. I don't know. I can't remember. When it's phase compatible, rift compatible. When I get rift compatible, I'm on my fucking pterodactyl friend, and I stick my hair up its butt. Sure. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora.
I feel like Frontiers of Pandora is the closest we'll ever get to a Defend Hawaii video game. In many ways, this is a game where you just do terrorism against the military-industrial complex. It's just that James Cameron would get a lot of pushback if he grounded this more in reality. So everyone is blue.
Exactly. He's tricking us all. He's using metaphor so that he can sell his movie in both China and America.
Don't play your mind games with me, Cameron.
Exactly. Just say it as it is.
Just tell it straight.
It's like if you made a movie called The Boat That Sank, and it was called the Sply-Manic, and it went down, and it sunk into the Mariana Trench, and then some old lady cried because she could have saved the man if she just made a bit of space on that piece of wood. Let's talk about Stormgate. Jeremy, this is on your list, I believe. This is the game coming from Frost Giant Studios, which are a bunch of ex-Blizzard people. They were working on this for a little while. Is this StarCraft? What is it?
It looks very StarCrafty. Yeah, I was curious. I put this on the list because I'm not sure how I feel about it, because it's a game that I've been excited for a long time. I really like StarCraft and Warcraft, so to hear that there's some ex-Blizzard folks at Frost Giant who are trying to kind of revive the RTS genre, which I feel like has almost completely died. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious if you guys saw this and thought it looked interesting. My only problem with it is that I feel like it looks so much like StarCraft 2, and it feels like it kind of is lacking a little bit of the diegetic punch of StarCraft. StarCraft was always interesting to me because the Terran, the Protoss, and the Zerg were kind of an interesting triad. There was interesting kind of interplay between them, and the world itself seemed very thought out and like themed and written. I'm not sure how I feel about Stormgate's setting. It feels a little sterile to me.
Yeah, I got the vibe from what I've seen that they are very much esporting this one as well, which I like. It makes sense. Like StarCraft was that type of game. I didn't care about any of that shit. Could not have cared less. Did not play much multiplayer. Same, I've always I'm a loner when it comes to all those games. World of Warcraft, same thing. I soloed most of it. Diablo, I never did co-op, so maybe I'm the weirdo. But like StarCraft to me always felt like a game that had a cool story. I liked the scenarios, all that sort of stuff. Whereas this feels like they're not making that. They're making it looks like a competitive first game. I don't know if that's actually the case. They say there's a campaign.
Yeah.
Group up to 3 in co-op versus AI, competing 1-on-1, 3v3, or get creative in the editor. So they're doing the whole thing. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, I'm it's always hard, right? It's like what is StarCraft? It's like we had Warcraft and we decided to do a space one, and we're going to make it like this weird tricky triangle, you know, of rock paper scissors basically. And it had a great art style, and it just kind of clicked, and it's really hard to like make another one of that. Like, it'll always feel derivative, I guess, in a way. So unless you do something totally different, and then what is there except sci-fi and fantasy? What's
true, the two genres were taken. I feel like I've been saying this for years.
Steampunk.
But Blizzard, if you have a bone of courage in your entire body, hire me and let me be the director of World of StarCraft, a new massively multiplayer online video game from Blizzard Entertainment.
Genius. Exactly. Just make it happen. Just make it. Just
make it. I have no experience directing billion-dollar projects, but I feel like in my bones, I feel like I could do it.
You know a good game when you play it.
Exactly. Like, come on, dude. I played like every game.
Stormgate. I hope it's I'm with you. I think there's a lot of people that hope that game is rad. So keep your eyes peeled on Stormgate. I want to quickly mention, I don't think I put it down on my list, but I did say steampunk a second ago. What the fuck is that game that everyone just thinks was BioShock Infinite?
Oh, yeah. Inxile made it, right?
Yes, it's in Exile. They're doing it. It's called Clockwork Revolution.
Okay, yeah.
What is
Clockwork Revolution. Apparently, Microsoft have responded to criticisms about how there was a great little thread done by Buttmac at Buttmac, Butmac, who apparently was the person who edited the original or the 3 BioShock Infinite trailers, and they did a side-by-side of this trailer for Clockwork Revolution and BioShock Infinite, and it's hard, right? We just talked about Lies of P, and I was like, hey man, it's copying Bloodborne, and I don't give a fuck. And we just talked about Stormgate, which is clearly just StarCraft. And I'm going to give out about this game, which I think mechanically is actually very different. I think it's more of action, like a first-person RPG style thing. I think it's not Infinite was basically a first-person shooter, like, so I actually think it might be quite different. Like Brian Fargo's working on it. He tweeted saying it's a true RPG with all the stats, crunchy details, and deep reactivity we're known for. But the trailer they put out just made it look like fucking BioShock Infinite 2 or like BioShock Infinite DLC. I was shocked by how similar it was.
Yeah, my for people watching the video, if you scroll back about 40 seconds, that was the first time I saw images of this game, and my jaw literally fell open involuntarily because it looks a lot like BioShock Infinite. I mean, the thing is that when you make Lies of P, right? It's like you're building a house. You liked the house building that FromSoft has done, and you're like, what if we made one that was blue instead of red? To me. Right. this feels like it may be a different house inside, but the exterior is painted the exact same color. And for some reason that triggers my brain as more egregious, despite the fact that it's probably way less egregious.
I would love to be in the meetings for this trailer, because like, did no one fucking like, people surely noticed.
Yeah.
Like, or like, was this the point where like, like, I don't know. I don't want to be mean, because like, I have such empathy for game developers after doing this shit for 7 years. I think we all do. So I'm really like, I don't want to like point at anyone, but like at a certain point, was the art team just like, like, what were they thinking? Like, were they thinking about Infinite as like, oh, this is actually like a really interesting setting, we could expand on it? Am I just crazy and steampunk is literally like, to me, Infinite and steampunk are not the same thing.
No.
Like, there are elements of steampunk in BioShock Infinite, and maybe there's a bit more in this trailer, I think that's fair to say, but there are such similarities with like not even like how the trailer's cut, but like the character, Davy Fitzroy was in the BioShock Infinite trailer. An African American woman, the main character in this game seems to be, or one of the characters in it is an African American woman who I'm not saying you can't have black ladies in your game, but like they both are dressed somewhat similar and look somewhat similar. There's like a big mechanical man in both of them. There are statues, and there are like very like vox populi revolutionary posters of a certain ilk. They have the tram lines that are like such a big part of BioShock Infinite. Like, it just seems like, if you were going to do it, then would you not show it in the trailer, maybe?
Yeah.
Because seems what they've done is made it look more like BioShock Infinite than maybe the game actually is.
Yeah, I feel like the steampunk thing is only kind of one element of it. It's the brightness. It's kind of like the saturated colors, the blues and golds. I don't know. There's just something about. I feel like they could have made this game dark and gritty color scheme and changed literally nothing else, and no one would have said BioShock Infinite. You're
right. There's like a weird similarity with like the color palette and everything. That's right there. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's shocking that like, so one of the things I noticed was that when you go to I'm not sure if it's still the case, but when you go to the YouTube trailer for this game on Microsoft's YouTube channel, it's the associated game is BioShock Infinite.
No way.
I swear to God. I took a picture of it. I was like, what? Like, to me, I was like, oh, like, I think the only person who can set that is the people who made the video. And then some people mentioned it to me, and I kind of thought about it, that like, I do think YouTube auto-generates them sometimes, but the only feedback that they can get to automate it, if it's not in the metadata of the video, which presumably it wasn't, is comments. Or like if it's getting linked in a post or something. So that means that like, presumably there was so many people saying, I thought this was BioShock Infinite. Is this BioShock Infinite? For the first 20 seconds, I thought this was a new BioShock Infinite, that YouTube just went and thought it was BioShock Infinite as well. Like, and that's, I don't know, man. That seems like, if you're announcing a game, that seems like a fucking own goal.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I feel bad for the people who, worked very, very. I mean, it looks incredibly polished and beautiful. So hopefully it can break free of the BioShock Infinite shackles.
Yeah, totally. And if you're a fan of like In Exile's games, like I think that's an exciting thing. You know what I mean? Like, and he hasn't had a first person one of those. I feel like Wasteland was like, and the Bard's Tale, of course, and things like that. I think those games are super interesting, but like to me they're isometric games, or they're not first person games like that. I don't know. So I think that's an interesting thing. So yeah, hopefully it gets a better trailer next time. Maybe he's off on the BioShock Infinite there, dudes. What was that game called again? The Clockwork Revolution.
Clockwork Revolution.
Let's go with Avowed, Jeremy. Speaking of first-person role-playing games, this the Obsidian's Skyrim looks a little bit less like a Skyrim.
Yeah, so this is a first-person RPG from Obsidian, creators of The Outer Worlds and Tyranny and what else? Pentiment, New Vegas, all sorts of very like story-forward role-playing games. Some of which I like quite a bit. this game looks incredibly polished to me. I would describe it as kind of like a Fallout, first-person, newer Fallout game kind of feel transposed onto more of like an Oblivion-style fantasy world. But there's also flintlock pistols, which is cool. I had mixed feelings watching this because I really like Obsidian. I really like fantasy. I like classic fantasy with like swords and shields and magic and knights and stuff. I can't get enough of. The only problem I have with this is that all of Obsidian's games, for me, the things that I remember about them are the narratives. So if I describe to you any Obsidian game that I liked, I'm like, oh, it's a game about a guy who does this because this happened. I can't tell what this game is about. I have no idea. I watched the entire trailer 3 times, and I don't know what this game is about. So I feel like it may be leaning more into kind of a sandboxy approach where they let you kind of shape your own role in the world, and therefore the trailer can't be like, you are the most evil man who ever lived, because maybe you won't be the most evil man who ever lived. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, the whole trailer is like, people feel your powers, my grace, and you're kind of like, okay, so I'm like a powerful guy in a fantasy world, and that's kind of all I know.
Yeah, that's fair. I think in a weird way, like, yeah, like I'm trying to think back to the Outer Worlds trailer. Like I remember, I think, yeah, maybe Obsidian's trailers haven't been super sharp maybe at doing some of this, because I also feel like they had a bit of trouble explaining what exactly that game was, and maybe they didn't really know, because the Outer Worlds is a weird one, because the Outer Worlds is like I love that game, and we did a documentary series on it, but it's kind of like, I think it's a really good example of not making a huge open world game and making a tighter game, but then you have way more control as a designer to make really interesting things happen with like the smaller amount of things that can be changed, and then the sort of matrix of possibility choices doesn't get so big that it's ridiculous and you never do anything interesting, but it's a tight enough world that you can really do things that are interesting with player choice and stuff like that. And the vibe I was always getting from Avowed was that it would be bigger than that, but maybe not as big as a, you know, Bethesda open world game. And now that they're all owned by Microsoft, there's no way Microsoft wants to have The Elder Scrolls 6 and this game coming. I mean, The Elder Scrolls 6 is not going to come out for like 7 years, but like they don't want 2 of those games in production from studios that were arguably not, you know, kind of fighting against each other for a while there. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it's an interesting trailer because it shows off, like, they're definitely trying to do a more colorful, vibrant take on fantasy, you know, with like the green fish man and like lots of blues and greens, kind of like Thor Ragnarok style color palette. And then even the font work is very, you know, I don't know, like 80s metal album cover kind of vibe, or rock album. So yeah, it's hard to tell, like, scope and all those things. I'm with you though. I kind of like Obsidian and I want it to be good. So I'm kind of hoping we'll see more and hope more grabs me. But I'm not necessarily taken aback by it or anything. But I kind of trust them to make good games. So I don't know.
Same. Yeah, that's why I'm still interested, despite the fact that there isn't kind of a narrative hook for me, because I'm just waiting for them to say, and your name is Jeffrey, and you just got off a boat because of this. Jeffrey the Conqueror.
There's already too many Jeffs in games coverage. We can't have Jeffs in games as well.
That's true. We need a Balthazar or something.
Oh, that's good. Frank, tell us about Sonic Superstars. There's new Sonic coming out.
Yeah, this surprised me. I was very impressed with all of Sega's stuff. Like, they announced the 2 Yakuza games, which was cool, but I was kind of expecting that. Sonic Superstars. Now, again, Sonic games are such a gamble. They're such a gamble. But this looks like it's 3D, but this looks like Sonic Generations, where it's a throwback to the old retro Sonics. Like, it's as if they took the original Sonic the Hedgehog games, but now they've added co-op to them. And I don't know if these are brand new levels, if they're remixed, but it's gonna be a 4-player online.
You said 3D. You meant 2D, didn't you?
Sorry, yeah. So it's like 2.5D, where it's on a side-scrolling plane, but it's 3D models. So it's like, oh, cool, okay, all right, and it looks very colorful, very vibrant. And it's gonna have online co-op, which I don't know if I've played an online co-op Sonic game before, if they've done that, if they pulled that off. So I'm kind of hopeful for this. It is gonna be a full price game. It's $60.
Oh my God, you're kidding me.
Which kind of raises the eye of criticism, because if this was like a $30 or a $40 game, it's like, sure, $60. Okay, how long is this? Is it gonna work? Is it gonna be good? But I'm hopeful for it. Sonic Frontiers wasn't bad. And so, you know, I feel like the bar is low, as always with Sonic games, but but it looks cool.
Yeah, those halcyon days of what was it? Sonic Mania? What was it called?
Sonic
what were
Mania.
Yeah, Sonic Mania was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, those ones are ones where they were done in 2D. They were, drawn or pixelated, animated that way. Those games were amazing. Are great soundtracks. They made the best Sonic games. They did the impossible. That team and made those games. There's two of them, wasn't there? There was Sonic Mania and there was another one.
I think there was like a DLC,
I forget, yeah.
For it. Yeah.
So in my head, they have to make another 10 years of shit Sonic games to then reboot Sonic Mania. That's kind of the vibe. Sonic Superstars out there. Let's go. Is there a couple of ones you could go through fast, Frank? I'm going to go through some of mine fast, actually. I'll do that. Under the Waves was a trailer that I liked the vibe of it. It was like a... they showed it at Gamescom, I think, last year. It is kind of... It reminds me of Moon, the Duncan Jones movie.
Nice.
Ooh.
And Iron Lung.
Oh,
put together.
nice. Wow, that's a good combo.
Yeah, it's an underwater game. It looks nice. It's 3D and has it's the third person, I'm guessing, and you control sort of a diver who's underwater. I'm playing on Dave the Diver at the moment, which is thematically similar, but not well. I guess it's just has diving in it. But yeah, it looks like without spoiling Moon, I think there's an element of this guy is like underwater on his own, and is he going crazy and stuff like that. What's down here. Presumably it kind of has a sci-fi edge to it, like maybe he's going to be underwater for like a year or two or so. I don't know what the deal is, but I liked it a lot. I thought it was very promising. Every time I've seen it, I've thought it looked neat, so I'm into it. Am I insane? Is this a Quantic Dream game? It is. That's nuts. I had no idea. That's very... Oh no, it's not. It's being published by them.
Okay, that makes more sense.
I think it's being... But that doesn't make any sense because Quantic Dream is now owned by Sony, isn't it? Am I crazy? It's being developed by Parallel Studio. Apparently. Maybe Quantic Dream isn't owned by Sony. I don't know. What type of journalist am I? Jesus Christ. Go play this video game. Parallel Studios. Quantic Dream looks like it's involved in somehow because their website points to them. Quickly, I'll also just say South of Midnight was a CG trailer. It looked like it was a game. It had a very cool low frame rate guy, like Deep South black blues player kind of dude, giant man made of bones playing guitar. Totally CG trailer, but I 100% vibed with it. There's not enough games set in like the South. It reminded me of the Left 4 Dead 2 trailer. You know what I mean? Like we don't get enough of that like Creole shit. You know what I mean? Like black Southern culture. I feel like you don't. And like the French. There was one Assassin's Creed game that was set down there. It was the PSP one or something. That was pretty cool. And Left 4 Dead had such a great vibe to it as well. I remember that trailer where she's like, my grandma asked me if I'm a praying man, and she said no, and she said, well, pray harder, because it ain't working. And it's like all the fucking zombies. It's so good. I don't know. I love the vibe of those games. I think like there's something about the like milky sunsets and the like sweatiness of it and the swamp and the like, French and American and African culture kind of like melting together in different pockets. Like, I don't know. It seems so interesting down there. Like, I've never been down south, so maybe I'm just like fetishizing it or something.
No, it's pretty cool. New Orleans is really cool.
You did a Mafia 3 thing down there?
I did, yeah. I filmed it was after I quit GameSpot. I did a freelance gig for them where I went down with Alexa Ray Correa and we covered Mafia 3, yeah.
Which is incredibly funny because that game was actually made here in Marin.
Yeah,
So,
they dragged us all the way there with them, yeah.
To do that. Any thoughts on Star Wars Outlaws? I did not. I mean, Star Wars to me, I don't know he's a Star Wars person anyway. But the fucking cheesy dialogue in these trailers just does my head in, man. I just can't give a shit. Like,
yeah,
it's so glad handy. What did you guys think?
It's just like, yeah, it's the Disney flavor of Star Wars. Because I was a big Star Wars fan as a kid, and like I'm aware that it's always been kind of hokey and cheesy. But there's a different type of cheesy that's like, I don't know, if Star Wars to me is the type of cheesy that's like old Flash Gordon cheesy, and it has become very kind of like snarky post Joss Whedon-y kind of sense of humor that I don't really vibe with. Every joke feels like he's right behind me, isn't he? It just feels like that's every joke.
the gameplay stuff they showed later looked really interesting and it looked good, I'd say, quality wise. I hope it doesn't end up becoming one of those games, which is the thing I hate the most, where a game that actually mechanically I really like, but tonally I just can't fuck with.
Yeah.
Star Wars Outlaws. Ultros, Jeremy.
Yes.
What is Ultros?
Okay, Ultros is probably the game that I'm most excited about on this list.
Ooh.
It is a 2D Metroidvania, but it is. I can only describe it as kind of if Mobius, the Jean Giraud, the French graphic novel artist, made Scorn as a 2D psychedelic Metroidvania.
Oh my god.
That is how I would describe this game. It
We
looks...
should do marketing for these people.
I know, yeah.
Sold.
I'm available. Hadoke Games, however you say your name. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. It is these bright, vibrant, saturated colors. Yeah, I don't know. If you watch this trailer and then you watch any other video game trailer, it makes it feel like it's in monochrome because there's so much color in this trailer. It just saturates the cones in your eyes and ruins them.
It looks like ink. It does. It has the vibrancy of ink.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
No gradient. Just like every color is like its color.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it has this kind of like almost like posterized look to it, but absolutely beautiful. Really good, like sound effects and kind of like I don't know. It looks like it's gonna feel really good to play, and it's beautiful. Yeah, I just like I like Metroidvanias, and it's a well-trod genre. Obviously, I feel like after. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I cut in only because the segue was right there. You said Metroidvanias and Well. Have you played Animal Well?
I've played a little bit of Animal Well, yeah.
So this kind of reminds me of Animal Well. Visually, they are totally different.
Yeah.
But it seems like they are both, worlds that are going for a look and they have their look and they're going for it.
Yeah, which is nice. It's like a Metro, because I've played so many Metroidvanias, I feel like I really need a little something novel to kind of pique my curiosity about a new Metroidvania. Just because it's so easy to start playing one and be like, all right, I know how this goes. I find the new ability, I get to the new thing, I get the dash. But yeah, this just looks super different. I've never seen a game that captures this kind of like heavy metal 70s 80s graphic novel, beautiful but horrifying psychedelia vibe.
It's gorgeous,
really interesting. Yeah,
people should check it out. Ultros, stick it in Steam, you'll see the trailer and a bunch of screenshots. I don't know what to liken it to. Everything has like a black outline around it, kind of like everything has a stroke around it, which I quite like. It some of these shots almost look like like particularly neon episodes of Futurama or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Where there's like kind of like, I don't know, but that also doesn't sell it. Yeah, it's very unique looking. God, the colors are terrific. Yeah, check it out. That's Ultros. I think we're down to our last 5 games here, so let's go through them just in the order they are. Actually, we'll keep that one to last because it's probably a big one. Citizen Sleeper 2, actually, Jeremy, that's probably a one for you. I stuck it down on the list thinking of you. What did you make of this? Was it a surprise announcement?
Yeah, no, for sure. Especially because they just did they did some, like, I think they did a tabletop addition to Citizen Sleeper 1. Something. They just did a release of something that wasn't up my alley, but I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I was surprised to see them so immediately after just announce a full-on sequel to Citizen Sleeper. The trailer was super interesting. It's kind of a cinematic trailer is how I would describe it. Kind of just like a scene from the story that seems to establish the stakes of this game. But it had this very kind of, I don't know what that animation style would be called. It's kind of pre-drawn comic booky images, but separated by plane and kind of like motion graphics edited or something to create the feeling that it's almost full motion. But it seems like this trailer has more animation in it than almost the entire game of Citizen Sleeper 1, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm curious how far they're going to take that. Like if Citizen Sleeper 2 will have more budget because the first one was a huge success, and they'll be able to kind of do more animation and kind of go crazier with the art. But it's the same artist as Citizen Sleeper 1. So if you like that style and you want to see them go a little crazier with it, it seems like it's going to be more of what Citizen Sleeper 1 was best for.
Frank, you got Spider-Man 2 and Alan Wake 2 down here. Which of these twos are you more excited for?
Man, I know. Spider-Man 2. I feel like it will meet my expectations. It'll be a great open world superhero game. I'm excited for the Venom stuff. That was the thing that wowed me with the abilities. But Alan Wake 2 is gonna surprise me. I feel like because the end of Alan Wake, the second half of Alan Wake gets so surreal. You're going through dreams and nightmares, and I can't wait to see how they do that with Alan Wake 2. So yeah, Spider-Man 2 I don't think will surprise me. I think it'll be awesome. But Alan Wake 2, I'm eager to see how it does surprise me.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
I'm surprised how Alan Wake 2 is a survival horror game. Like, it is crazy how different it is. Or I guess you play two characters. You play Alan Wake and you play I don't know the lady's name, but another character. And maybe her stuff is more survival horror. Maybe the Alan Wake stuff is a bit more of the, weird creep, sort of like ethereal stuff that you got in the latter half of Alan Wake 2, and kind of like Control as well, like sort of exists in that same universe. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Alan Wake 2 is like not that far away, right? Isn't it?
I think they both come out like the same week. Spider-Man 2 and Alan Wake are both October. So it's going to be an amazing like week or month for video games.
October 17th for Alan Wake 2, and Spider-Man 2 October 20th. Yeah.
Oh my
God.
God.
There you go. Just in time for Halloween, Alan Wake 2. Final Fantasy 7-2 I see here. Also, wasn't there a demo for Final Fantasy 16 out?
There is, yes.
So the demo's out, and I think 16 comes out next week.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't touched the demo. I know it's one of those modern demos where the progress carries over, but I'm just going to jump in blind next week. But yeah, Final Fantasy 7-2, we knew it was coming. I love that they're marketing that the game is going to be on 2 discs. That was just a sticking point of their trailer, which I thought was very old school and funny. And yeah, the whole thing with Final Fantasy 7-1 remake is that it just took place all entirely within the city of Midgar, and now you're going out into the open world, the fields, and it seems like they're doing alternative timeline stuff or whatever this new 7 remake is. They're showing. Did they show Tifa like dying or like Tifa being hauled away on a stretcher? And
oh, really?
I don't know. They're introducing different characters now, so I don't know what's gonna happen there. But I loved Final Fantasy 7 remake. I loved the DLC extra they put out with I think her name is Yiffy. So I'm excited to see whenever this next one comes out, because they're really good.
What a time for people who grew up playing Final Fantasy games 15 years ago. We can go back and enjoy it again. What a time for fans of open world role-playing games, I guess. Our last game on the list of not E3 stuff is Starfield. A long gameplay showcase. I think it's 45 minutes featuring many familiar faces. If you've watched Noclip documentaries in the past, it was great to see so many of the team. A bunch of people who were kind of like maybe a little bit earlier in their careers when we interviewed them as well, now leading teams. I thought that was cool to see Rick Vicenz in there, and got to see Emil Pagliarello and a bunch of other folks. It was interesting. Okay, let's talk about Starfield. Did you guys see the gameplay stuff? Jeremy, did you see much of this?
Yeah, not the entire thing,
Frank?
but a bunch.
Yeah, it's 45 minutes long, it's a lot, and they talk about all the different systems that are in the game and stuff like that. I want to give a bit of space for this because I feel like we have covered a lot of Bethesda games. We've covered Bethesda Game Studios. We've covered id and Arcane. We've done lots of work on history of this studio, and I think we got a decent amount of insight into sort of how they seem to attack development and stuff like that. We actually have a video coming out with the ex-lighting director for Starfield, Nate Perkypile, who was also in our documentary for Fallout 76 and the history of Bethesda. He left Bethesda and is making a game on his own called The Axis Unseen. I went and interviewed him while I was in Maryland a couple of weeks ago. So I'll actually have a video about him and leaving Bethesda and how the studio has changed. He talks a bit about as well and how much bigger it's gotten, and what it's like developing one of these games on his own as opposed to on a team of 100 like he was on Skyrim or something. So yeah, initial thoughts on Starfield. Who wants to go first? Anyone have any strong opinions on it? Jeremy, I'm interested in what you have to say about this.
Yeah, I'm cautiously interested. I don't know. Starfield has not hooked me, and I feel like the primary reason is that it looks incredibly polished. It looks like the shooting looks good, and the graphics are obviously ridiculous, and the scope of the world is obviously incomprehensible. But the thing that I'm worried that it will lack is when I play an RPG, I really like, I've talked about this before on the podcast, I really like heavy theming in like, I like in like a Fallout game when you find a new vault and you go inside and it's all one guy with the same name. Or in like Gary, exactly. Or you play Super Mario RPG and you get to Monstro Town and it's a town where all of the people who live there are monsters. I like that heavily themed kind of zones and biomes for a game, and I know it can come off as like a little like a caricature or cartoonish or over the top or not grounded in realistic or whatever, and Starfield feels to me like it is very grounded. It's going for kind of like a simulacra of what it would be like to be in kind of like this future-y environment. And it seems more, I mean, there's like aliens and shit, obviously, and laser guns, whatever. They're not laser guns. They're like hyper-propelled magnetic concussion rods. But yeah, I'm worried that it'll end up a little sterile for my taste. I'm worried that it's gonna be like everything just is. You go to the place and everyone is just like a normal guy, kind of. Yeah,
it's funny you mentioned that the idea of the sort of simulacra, the idea of this like sort of it's a hard thing to like to put your finger on. The shorthand I sort of use is when a place feels lived in.
Yeah.
And there is something about sci-fi worlds, especially new sci-fi worlds, that feel very unlived in. And I don't mean like nobody lived in this house, but I mean the difference between like American cities and European cities, where there is and this doesn't, that's a blanket statement. Let's say, you know, what's an American city, like Atlanta or something, or, you know, there are plenty of American cities that have lots of history, or Reno, Nevada, yeah, right? Let's say Reno, Nevada, and, you know, Bath in England or something like that, right? Where there is a history and a culture that exists in these places. And I think when you play games like you mentioned, like very astutely, like a lot of their older games are games that are like entirely full of that. Like you're the only one who doesn't know about all the traditions that are in this weird town. And you're the only one who doesn't know about all the Elvis guys who live. I mean, Vegas wasn't them, but like New Vegas wasn't them. But you know what I mean? Like speaking of Reno, you don't know all these things, and there are all these like deep cultural things and identifiers and things that you don't know, that all the Khajiits are hooked on skooma and should not be trusted, and the sort of gypsy subtext that sits there that we all just don't think about. Whereas with this, there's something about the theme, the setting of it, that sort of is already predisposing you to not have that. I have had the same problem with you, where I'm like, and sometimes I wonder, I'm 37 and maybe it's just because I, you know, played Oblivion 20 years ago, and Skyrim and Morrowind and all this stuff, and maybe I'm just too old for it, but like I don't get excited about lots of things in these trailers. There was a couple of moments though that there I went, maybe they'll do it. Maybe they'll, because I think I'm missing the same thing you're missing. When they brought the fan, did you see the adoring fan?
Yeah.
I might have missed this. I'm pulling up the trailer.
Do you remember the fucking little like a Dragon Ball looking fucking elf that was in Oblivion?
Yeah.
Who was like your fan, who would come up and rush up to you and stuff. He's in Starfield.
The same guy?
Like the same voice actor.
Oh, okay.
And now he's in a spacesuit. He's not a wood elf anymore, but he's in a spacesuit, but he looks like a next gen version of the adoring fan from Oblivion. And when he turned up, I was like, oh, like that's a good sign. If they're going to do some jokey, stupid shit,
yeah,
you know. And when we interviewed Emil Pagliarello, he talks about, like, he was responsible for the Dark Brotherhood quest line. He talks about the Gary one that he didn't work on, but like someone else did. He gets excited when you talk about the weird ones, like the weird vaults and the weird esoteric and off the beaten path side quests that were in those games. So I'm hoping that there's a lot of that stuff in there. They're just not talking about it. But I'm with you. But I will say that adoring, I almost did a 180 on the game. I was feeling like, all right, like some of the stuff looks amazing. The shipbuilding looks unbelievable. That to me looks really cool. I think it's smart how they're tackling the size of the planets problem. No Man's Sky did a sort of we will use this algorithm to populate the entire world thing. It seems like what they're doing is a hybrid of, we have when you go to a planet, there will be a specific number of like set places we have built that are like, this is this city and this is this outpost, and then the rest of the world is a hybrid of, it is the world as it's been sort of like, I think it's baked, I'm not quite sure, but if you land somewhere random, we know where you are, and we may spawn a camp or a city or something if you get, you know what I mean? Like, so everyone's playthrough will be a bit different as a result of that. It won't be consistent across everyone, but that they will basically have almost like the AI director of Left 4 Dead watching what you're doing and then being like, oh, they're wandering around this place. Let's make some bandits turn up, or there's actually a hidden cave here. The game like puts a hidden cave or a camp there, which I think is quite smart. And hopefully will create those moments. But as long as you don't know the puppet strings are there, which is always a big part of these games.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is I feel like the less I'm aware of that while I'm playing, the better. Because if I know I'm being catered to or something, there's something about it that feels like you're at Disney World and someone just ran up because you're like you have the VIP pass. And
Totally.
they're like, sir, are you hot? Here's a fan. And you're like, all right, just like relax. I just want to like walk around the park like a normal person. But yeah, no, I think, I mean, you know, Bethesda makes really big, interesting worlds as a matter of course. So I have no doubt they'll be able to create an insane scope on this. I just hope it feels like, yeah, like I hope
like it has a heart.
Yeah,
something,
exactly.
or,
That's the word I was looking for. I hope it has a human dimension to it that makes my exploration feel grounded in sort of like human narrative verbs. Like, I'm curious about this place because I want to know if these people are okay, or you know what I mean. Like, for me, I just like go into like Zordon 5 to get trinium iron is not the motivating factor for me. It doesn't hook me. So
yeah, I'm with you. It's crazy that in a way, I also liked how they showed a lot of people. It wasn't just Todd Howard playing a demo for 30 minutes. It was like, let's involve a bunch of the development team. Also, did they move offices? They must have, because the place they filmed in was like way more futuristic than maybe they just did the whole thing up during COVID. I don't know. Frank, what did you make of it, Starfield? Are you excited for it? Was there anything that stood out for you in particular? Frank's internet is gone. I think he's out of here. Todd Howard knows that he's going to shit talk Starfield, so he's cut you off. Frank, we hear you again. You're back. Quick,
okay.
Before the Bethesda dogs set loose on your house, what do you think about Starfield?
So the first half of the first quarter of the presentation, I was nervous because they just showed giant, open, empty planets, and it was like, what that like it wasn't until they showed the cities and how dense and populated it was, and then they showed like the A plot of like, oh, we're the last explorers, we've been exploring the universe since the beginning. It showed like the conquistador ships, and I was like, oh, that's a great hook. I'm interested. The combat looks pretty cool. So I'm okay. I was warming up to it, and then it was very funny after the conference. There was that interview quote that, it's going to be 30 frames per second on Xbox. And I feel like that completely overshadowed everything else. But it's tough because, like, I don't know. I think I said this a lot, too, where when I'm like, not doing work, I want to sit down and enjoy a game. I don't want to be on my computer. So I will probably play it on Xbox, even if it's 30 frames per second. That still bums me out. But I don't know. I feel like with these Bethesda games, they're pretty cozy. You're exploring, you're talking to people, it's dialogue. It's not high octane action all the time. It barely
you get to
is.
play your own way, which is a big I mean, I was kind of griping about this a few weeks ago about how like every one of these games they have to have like shipbuilding and character customization and blah 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 blah. And like, but like, you know, you can play stealth, you can play hot, you can play, you know, whatever way you want. That adds to the coziness of it, right?
So I think I'll still do it on Game Pass. I'm trying to remember. I think Outer Worlds, I always Outer Worlds, I don't remember if that was 60 frames or 30, but I started that on Xbox and ultimately played it on PC. But I think I'll give it a shot on Xbox. If I'm like, no, I'm gonna love it absolutely, maybe I'll switch to PC. I also can't imagine it would run above 30 frames on Steam Deck, but part of me is like, shit, will it even run on Steam Deck? Because that would be amazing to have. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the issue you're going to get with Starfield is a CPU thing. It's not the graphics. And the Steam Deck gets away with it a lot because it can drop the resolution pretty nicely on that little screen, and it still like looks so good. sounds like this is just a computational error issue on Starfield's part, and you can't. I'm not going to sit back and say they shouldn't have a game that's complex. I think that's exactly what we should be doing with games, is making it so that they're doing more and trying to process more interesting worlds or verbs or whatever it's going on in the background. I tweeted about this too and came under a bit of Xbox fanboy fire for saying it. I don't think it's a bad look for Bethesda. That's not what I'm getting at. I think this is a bad look for Xbox. I think they have had a rough couple of years when it comes to their first party stuff. They had leadership out there for a while talking about how we're buying all these studios, we're going to get all these amazing games on Game Pass. Game Pass continues to be one of the best deals in gaming. I think when you look at Noclip Crew and listen to this podcast, the reason we like it is not because of the big AAA games, because I think they have largely not shown up in a way that is meaningful. I think it's the opposite. It's all of the weird, esoteric indie games that we would not maybe have spent $15 on to try out, but because it's on Game Pass, we're trying everything now and coming across these wonderful games. And that is that's the reason that I keep my Game Pass subscription. It's not because of the AAA games. But if they're saying that the biggest game that'll come out on Game Pass for whatever year period, like if we say Game Pass ran for 4 years, something like that, I don't know, a bit longer. Let's say the past 4 years and the next 4 years. This is probably the biggest game, and it's not going to run at 60 frames a second. Like, not everyone needs 60 frames a second. Like, there's a weird thing that happens when you say oh, it's not going to be in 60, I'll play it somewhere else, where people say, oh, the game runs fine in 30. Like, for you, it might run. I'm glad. Like, my brother in Christ, I'm so happy that you are not stuck with my sickness, that you need shooters especially to be running at a higher frame rate than Quake 3 on my 1998 PC. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so fucking happy for you. I played The Witcher 3 on Xbox One. It was 30 frames a second. It annoyed me the entire way through the game. I then replayed it on PC. Like, yes, you can play these games. Breath of the Wild. Would that game be better in 60 frames a second? Yes. I don't have an option to play it on PC, so I will grit my teeth and I will play it. I would say the biggest issue with Tears of the Kingdom that I'm having is the frame rate's fucking terrible. The frame rate on Tears of the Kingdom is bad. It drops down to 15 and 20 frames a second often, and it looks like shit. And I don't like that. And yes, the game is great. Would the game be better if it was running on better hardware? Absolutely it would. It's a bummer that it runs like garbage. So I'm the same way with Starfield, where it's like, I'm so glad this game is complex. I don't think Bethesda have done anything wrong in making a game that is not limited by the console release that it has to come out on. But if you're telling me that these consoles are now already having to run 30 frames a second games of new releases, then my friends, we are over the curve. They are told we are going to be getting new consoles, and they're going to be talking about them in the next few years. The 4K 60 dream was a lie, and we are not getting it on those consoles unless it's unless it's like Void Bastards or something. You know what I mean? Something that's designed with isn't hogging all the CPU power, and also doesn't have crazy graphics, has a stylistic look to it. But when it comes to AAA games, that was a dream that was largely being sold to us that is not coming to fruition. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm bummed that it's not going to be that way, and I would prefer to play it probably that way. I'll probably do something weird, like play it on my PC with a controller and stick it in my television or something like that. You know what I mean? Because that's how I'd like to do it. Jeremy, how do you feel about the frame rate thing? Because it's so fucking personal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, for sure. I stay out of all public discourse about frame rates because I feel like my brain was shaped in the crucible of gaming on my family's Pentium 2 family computer. And yeah, I just don't even notice it. I don't know. When you said Tears of the Kingdom has a low frame rate, I was like, oh really? Does it? I have not noticed. People talk about Bloodborne running at 30. Never noticed it. Never think about it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if it's because I grew up with the worst computer ever that I was gaming on, and if I could just if the textures would pop in appropriately, I was happy enough. I don't know. Yeah, I just never really think about it. I'm sure someday a Switch will flip and it will not be able to be unflipped. But Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I emulate a lot of PS1 games that sometimes run
Right,
shitties, and I never bother with it. So
I feel we should do like a documentary about this because like where it comes from because like it is so like that's why I hate when people saying like, oh, games are fine on Thursday or like I can't, or game or not. It's like like asking somebody what their favorite fucking color is. There's no reason. I'm not going to sit here and give you a reason. I don't think like I'm saying I need games to be 60. I'm not saying that everyone else is wrong or that like every game should run at 60. I don't think so. But for me, I would enjoy them more. Maybe it's because like I said, I was playing first person shooters. I spent an entire summer saving up for that fucking OpenGL graphics card so I could play Quake 3. And then when I did play it, I was like, this frame rate's fucking good. This frame rate. And then that was like what I expect now is that. But like even like the FromSoft games, I've played a bunch of those games in the past. The two games I've spent the most time in are Demon's Souls and Elden Ring, and I'm not talking about the original Demon's Souls.
yeah,
So like I love those games because they run in 60, and I do like Bloodborne, but like I feel like if you typed in Bloodborne into Google and hit space, the next thing that will come up would be 60 frames per second patch.
Yeah.
And it's not everyone, and it is a sickness, and I'm like Michael Fassbender in Shame. I don't want, I'm not happy with my addiction, but that's the reality of it. And a lot of people are going to feel that way, especially with a game like Starfield that is like such a mass market game, right? And people are anticipating it. That's going to bum people out, and it's not a good look for Xbox because that means like a certain subsection of those fans are going to think that the Xbox is a piece of shit machine, and that is not accurate. I think for the money you pay for that thing is super good, but clearly it's not up to the task of the biggest AAA game of 2023, and that says something. I don't know. So I'm glad you can play it on your fucking Pentium 2, Jeremy.
Yeah, my Pentium 2 that I made my family buy so we could play Battlefield 1942,
Oh
if I
my
recall
God.
correctly.
Dun,
Dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, dun. That music is burned into my brain because the game loaded
Oh, no, we
so
did the opposite.
slowly. Well,
I did a different. You did the right one.
Yeah.
I did a different Battlefield. I did Battlefield 2 or Vietnam. Vietnam plays Deep Purple.
Yeah, I was doing the one on the loading screen where it does the dun 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 dun.
You're right.
It
I
does
did
that
the
for
menu.
2 minutes, and then the horns come in, and they're like. Hopefully,
I think I did the
through.
menu song.
Yeah.
Which is like doom 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 doom.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Dude, it's so fucking epic. God, those games are so good.
Yeah. We should talk about those games on a video sometime in the near future.
You're right. Can we transition? Are
Yes.
we done with? I guess maybe. Yeah. Let's say one thing before we talk about that. Is I guess yeah. What did you think of Summer Games Fest? I'm a huge fan of E3. We did not go. I decided not to go this year because I had the option of going to the NASCAR race in Sonoma Motor Speedway, and I never get to go to Sonoma Raceway. And I was like, if there was a year to take off E3, I'll do it this year. And if I feel bad about it, then I can go next year. I was glad I didn't go down. But I'm interested in what you guys think. Frank, I feel like you are like the most like hype man, like grass is always greener or glass is always half full dude. Like you always like this shit. What did you make of this? Like did this reach your sort of like happy threshold?
It's funny. I feel like because it wasn't E3, I had low expectations, especially for the Jeff Keighley thing. Because like I feel like last year or 2 years ago, it was like half of it was just Amazon commercials. So I was really burned on it. But I was very happy with Mortal Kombat 1. I was happy with the Yakuza stuff. The Xbox showcase I loved because like 90% of those games are coming to Game Pass.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, cool, I'll try this. So I really liked Xbox's showcase. There weren't any like single standouts that are like, yes, I'm so happy. But it was just like, okay, sure. So it's very soft. Like, yeah, so that's so, but it's, here's the big info dump of all the games coming in the second half. No major things, but I was happy. But I think going into it, I knew what to expect. I knew we would see Mortal Kombat stuff. I knew there were upcoming Yakuza games. So I had low expectations, and I guess I had a medium like reward. I was like, sure, that was cool. All right, yeah, video games are great. I got to beat all these old ones because otherwise I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do in October. So I'm happy, but I had low expectations. But it was nice to watch. I only watched the Jeff Keighley thing, and I watched Xbox. I skipped the Ubisoft because, and I think there was other things going on too. But those are the only two I watched.
I think we had a meeting during Ubisoft, the two of us. I watched the first 40 minutes, and then I had it on a second screen while we were in that meeting. and I was half watching it. Jeremy, what did you make of it? What did you? How did you? To me, you're you don't. You're not keeping. You're not as like insane as me and Frank are when it comes to like having to watch things live. So I'm interested in your perspective on like, how did you get information? Because there's so many different shows.
Yeah. I watched some of it live, some of the events live, and only some of each of the ones that I just get this feeling that like when I sit down and the trailers start rolling, there'll be like 2 or 3 in a row that I'm not interested in, and
Right.
and then it's like I check the proverbial watch and I'm like, I've just been watching like commercials at the Super Bowl for 20 minutes about games I don't want to play. So yeah, I kind of just like I just checked a bunch of compilations and roundups of what was released, and then if something caught my attention, would watch the trailer for it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like the kind of spectacle of these because it's fun to see, you know, like Twitch streamers who kind of play games sometimes but aren't like gaming streamers, and then you go on Twitch and everyone is watching the showcases and reacting to games. There's something fun for me about just seeing a ton of people excited about video games in general, and
Right.
I like the way that these events kind of seem like the Keighley specific event, I believe, was dovetailed straight into the Tim Schafer hosted Day of the Devs promo
Yes,
spot,
yeah.
and I really like that because I think, you know, you see the stream the total of people watching drop off pretty steeply, but I feel like for every person who leaves, there's probably at least a few who are sticking around and being exposed to things like Beastieball and stuff. And so yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of interesting people working on interesting games, and it's fun to just kind of see people at large get excited about games as a medium, and there's something fun about that. But yeah, the only thing, this is totally unrelated to the presentation itself, but I watched part of the stream on YouTube, and holy shit, the YouTube chat is probably the most toxified social environment I've ever
really?
seen in my entire life.
I just always hit that button, that hide chat button,
I-
where they just like
It was a
being
train
absolute
wreck. I couldn't look
turds.
away. It was just like, I just have never, if I ever release a game and it's in one of these events, I will not go to a live stream. It's horrifying. But unrelated. I was just like, oh my God, there are people who kind of like their world of relating to games is like picking up Madden and one AAA game a year. And then they pop into this chat and see something like Beastieball. They're like, what the fuck is this? What is this indie bullshit? And I was like, oh, that's kind of sad.
Yeah, it was the Data Devs one was fun. They had a lot of like people from Double Fine introducing stuff, which was an interesting take because a bunch of people who don't presenting. Bunch of great games in there. Yeah, it's funny. I feel I miss the dance monkey dance nature of the 3 big video game companies having to sell their wares directly to us.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. I thought it made silly shit happen a lot. I thought it was kind of awkward for them, and they'd probably prefer not to be doing it, but they had to because they were shamed into doing it because if they would look bad if they didn't turn up. And I miss that era. I think Jeff's show serves a purpose for, you know, getting maybe some sort of centralized eyeballs, you know, that aren't going to be on the Microsoft show. But it has such a different, more protected feel. Like, he is there to make sure everyone feels okay when they come on stage and talk about the thing. The Nick Cage bit when Death by Daylight with Nicolas Cage coming on stage was maybe my favorite moment of that show. And like you said, it sort of, there was a couple of moments where there was one moment, I forget what it was, where he like did like, he said something about like something and everyone went, yeah. And he almost like caught it because what he was about to say next was like an ad read. And he was like, no. And then he like said something about Pizza Hut or something. And the
It
whole
was the
place burst out.
Final Fantasy into like Grubhub or something like
That's
that.
what it was. Yeah. But he weathered it very well. I think there was years past where Keighley, you know, there's the famous Doritos and Mountain Dew picture, right? Or the Schlick Hydrobot at the Game Awards. I think he has managed to position himself in a way that like some of that stuff he's like a water off a duck's back a bit with it. And in some of those moments, it was especially interesting. There was another one. What was it? There was some weird game that was like a Nexon produced farming cozy game or something, or it was like, oh no, it was one for like kids. It seemed like a child's game. And then he said like, what did he say? Mortal Kombat 1. And like, he was laughing coming out of the trailer. Like, people were like, clearly they paid to have this trailer on this show, and this does not fit. And everyone was kind of like laughing, and he was laughing, and he said, yeah, Mortal Kombat 1 and such on the same show. That's the beauty of Summer Games Fest. So I think he's never, like, weirdly, I think he has managed to like solidify this weird, like, dad role or something, or because it is like crass, some of the selling on it, but I don't know, it kind of works a little bit. But I'm with you, like a lot of the trailers don't speak to me, and there's just so many of them. Like, it's fun to do a podcast like this where we can do a bit of curation, and like you guys told me about a bunch of games that I missed. Like, that PC gaming show was a big show, and there was a lot of stuff I didn't see on it, and trailers are short. So if you're not watching, if you go to the bathroom or you decide to skip the last 30 minutes, you might miss like a game that might be your favorite game of the show. So it is a lot. I feel like I spent a lot of time on, subreddits up until the blackout, trying to get an idea of what the fuck was on it. But the magic's not there. The vibes are weird. That's my feeling on it as a thing. It feels way more marketing-y, which sounds very stupid to say when you remember what E3 was, but it does.
It feels like the thing you said about the like dog and pony show of E3, where it's like Dance Monkey, that like Phil Spencer has to go up on stage and pretend to be like pomp and circumstance, and we're all like, it's video games, and people are like throwing cups of Sprite in the audience. I feel like, I don't know. It had a weird vibe. It felt like it was being commercially, but not too. I didn't feel like E3 always felt like parody of itself in a way. This kind of just felt like it was doing the same marketing routine without the parody element or something.
Yeah, there's a bit of the theatrical nature of E3 that we miss.
Yeah.
Which I miss a lot. So I don't know. We'll see. In my head, I'm like, E3 is dead and it's never going to be as good as it was. It's like the summer of love, man. It was a good time. There was things about it that were fucked, sure, but the vibes were good.
We did a bunch of acid. The cops beat us with nightsticks, but we had a good time.
Those halcyon days. So I'm feeling that a little bit, you know what I mean? But we'll see. Let us know what you think. Stay in the comments. Shoot us an email, podcast@noclip.video. Speaking of a segue that was on the table 10 minutes ago that I passed up, there's a new show we're doing on Noclip Crew called, I don't know if it has this name, but it's basically Noclip Hall of Fame. We did a bunch of videos over the past couple of months where I played games like Wipeout and Black and White and went, are these games still good? Do they still hold up in the year of our Lord 2023? And we're turning that into a show where more of than me are making these. Jeremy's doing one on Earthbound, Mother 2 at the moment. But it's not just a Let's Play show. It's like scripted, top end, with like a bunch of history on the game and why we think it's a good game. And then there's like a Let's Play element where we're basically trying to convince somebody else on the Noclip staff that this game should be in the Hall of Fame. And we're basically going to use it as a vector to cover a bunch of classic games that we like to talk about. You mentioned Battlefield Vietnam. Turns out it's hard to get it running on Windows 10. So,
oh, really?
I'm going to keep on it. But that's a game that I've always wanted to do a documentary on, but can't necessarily fly to DICE right now and ask them about that game that came out 25 years ago. But damn it, I can make a little video essay and do a Let's Play on it for sure. So
hell yeah.
We're going to do a bunch of these, and we're also going to do a bunch of indie game little demos as well. We're recording Dave the Diver. We're supposed to do it today, but this podcast is running late, Frank. Could you do that tomorrow with me? Would that be right?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay, we'll do that tomorrow. Yeah, I think we're both feeling it, I think. And I'm also recording the Earthbound stuff with Jeremy later on today. And we have a Stunt Derby playtest as well. So yeah, we're working on those shows, and there's a bunch of other stuff coming out on Noclip, but we're not even in the housekeeping yet. We haven't even gotten to the games we have played part of the podcast. It's an hour and 40 minutes in. I think this is going to be pretty short. So Frank, We Love Katamari. How does it play? The new remake.
So this dropped the same week as like Diablo, Street Fighter, E3, not E3, whatever. So this got buried. We Love Katamari. It's a remaster of the sequel to the original Katamari Damacy. So originally came out in 2005. This is the first time it's on modern consoles. It's on PC. I never played this. I played like the 360 version of Katamari. I played the remaster, the OG one.
Beautiful Katamari. Was that the 360 one?
Yeah, that was I think so. The 360 one, and then there was another one on PS3. But those two those generation ones were kind of like remixes of the old ones. So this is my first time playing We Love Katamari, and it's so funny because Kenta Takahashi didn't want to make a sequel to Katamari Damacy. So the entire time, every person you talk to in Katamari just says, "Oh, I love Katamari Damacy. I want to roll up more stuff. Give us more stuff to roll up, little prince, please." And so you are like resentfully doing objectives for these people telling you to roll up more shit, and it's like the most like passive aggressive. Like, it is so funny.
I never picked up on that. That's great.
It's so funny. And yeah, just playing Katamari is amazing because it is so colorful. It's so saturated. It's just pure serotonin, the best music in the world, all of the art, all the things you pick up, and it's nice because it feels so fresh. Like, yeah, it's so I really recommend it. It was only $30, which is an amazing bargain. It's such a good game. And yeah, I mean, if you haven't already, the original Katamari Damacy is there too. What I like about this one, I don't know if it's so much in the first one, but like I feel like the back half of this game is a lot more specifics. Like, oh, try to only roll up like crane origami or things like that. So it's like, okay, it's a little bit more focused as opposed to just rolling shit up, which is great, but it kind of turns your brain off a bit too much. So I'm loving this, and I think the tidal wave of game announcements, new games. It's kind of, I always love when remasters come out, especially of games I missed the first time. So we love Katamari. I really, really recommend it. I'm sure it runs great on Steam Deck as well. I think it's on Switch, but I'm playing I'm playing it on the Series X so I can get those achievements. But it's great.
It's out on everything. Came out on June 1st, I want to say. So a couple of weeks ago. It is technically called We Love Katamari Reroll plus Royal Reverie. Do you know what the Royal Reverie part is?
I don't know. I don't know if that's like DLC stuff or extra, but
it's out now on. So this is basically a remake or a re-release of the PlayStation 2 game that is now available on Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Windows, Xbox One, and Xbox Series S and S. I can't believe they brought it out on One and PS4 as well. It's pretty cool. Yeah, terrific game. If you've never played We Love Katamari, I mean, if you've never played any Katamari game, you should definitely play this. If you've never played We Love Katamari in particular, I would also suggest playing it. It is a terrific sequel from the Bay Area's own Keita Takahashi. He wasn't born here, but he's been living here quite a long time now. I've heard he is a very he's a quiet dude. He doesn't do a lot of interviews. We tried to grab him a couple of times. Seems to, perhaps because English is not his first language, and he is a very artistic person. That often comes up for us. We have folks who are, that's why we got the art director and all those folks in Arcane to talk to us in French. So maybe that's the way in with Keita Takahashi. Maybe we get a translator for him, so we can
just give me 5 years to learn Japanese. Just 5 years.
Okay, 5 years. If you learn Japanase in 5 years, then I will ask him, and he may still say no. So that would have been a very not a waste of time.
Yeah,
but you don't get to use Google Translate on your phone in Japan anymore, so that would be a shame.
True.
I completed Slayer's X.
Yes.
Over the weekend, Slayer's X. What a fucking deeply weird game, Frank. Did you complete it yet?
No, I think I'm on like level 7 out of the 9. It got like kind of hard, and I was like, let me put this down for a bit. But yeah, I got through most of it, and it's so silly. It's so fun.
It plays like it does not for good and ill. It does not break kayfabe. It plays like a game that was made by this guy all those years ago. Because there were times where I got fucking lost. There was 3 times where I had to watch a guide to figure out where to go, which was a bit annoying. I also had the final boss fight bug out on me in a very annoying way, and I had to restart the whole thing. So it's not without its rough edges, but for some reason I just could not put the thing down. It was just I just needed to. The shooting was good. The shooting's fun. The weapons are interesting. They're all varied and weird. It gets hard. Like, the lack of ammo is a problem later in, especially when you're fighting. Have you fought? Did you? No spoilers for how the first one turns up, but have you fought like the werewolves with the rocket launchers yet?
Yes.
Yeah, like you need to hit them with that fucking. What's the like Deus Ex Machina weapon you get?
Yeah, it's like some Kamehameha. It's
like the X Slayer power or something.
Yeah.
The X Slayer. What's he say? More. The one thing that kept coming up. I tweeted it. Did you see my tweet?
Yeah, the S Blade has a hack blood.
The S Blade has a hack blood charge. The S Blade has a hack blood charge. It would say it like every time you reloaded a level, or the S Blade has
the hack blood talisman.
That's it. The hack blood talisman. That level was hard. Where you were in the computer.
Yep.
Jesus, I had to like slow down to a crawl. I was used to just running through people. I had to like be super tactical to like kill all those guys.
I had to like go. I would like turtle back, try to find any health pickups, kill a few more.
Yeah.
It was like got very tricky because my save was in a bad spot. But
Yeah.
that's what happens in those old games. It's like shit. Okay.
You totally, you get like suddenly there's like because like someone else made the level, so it's like the difficulty just arbitrarily spikes in it. Yeah. So I don't know. I it's not without its rough edges, but I enjoyed it and was glad to have completed the whole thing. It's very stupid. The like ending cutscenes and all that stuff is just like, it's like straight up that Linkin Park meme of like,
Yes.
if this movie was released in 2004. It's like that type of thing. Yeah. Fucking S-Blade has a hack blood charge. Jeremy, did you see the S-Blade is the cool S?
No. Oh, like the Super S?
The Super S. That's
Oh
what
my
your
God.
fucking weapon looks like. The
That's
S-Blade.
unbelievable.
I know. Isn't that like so inspired?
I love Hypnospace. I just haven't gotten around to playing this game yet.
It's fucking this makes me want to go play more Hypnospace because I don't think I
Yeah.
played enough Hypnospace. So shout out to Jay Tholen, the fucking crazy person for putting this game together. What a weird ass game. I'm so glad it exists because if he hadn't made it, no one else would have. It's one of those. Same with Hypnospace. That's a podcast, I think. Coming up on 2 hours almost. A couple of housekeeping things here. The Stunt Derby demo will be going up on Monday. There's a new trailer and screenshots up on our Steam page. If you could do anything for us, if you don't become a patron or if you don't do anything, like if you shit talk us on Twitter, no matter what, if there's one thing you can do, go wishlist that game for us. Help us out. We're documenting the whole thing. We have about 6,500 wishlists right now, which is not terrible. So that's pretty cool. But next week we want to get as many people playing the demo, wishlisting it, helping us out. Helps us with publishers. Helps us. It also just helps us figure out what's good about the game or not. The demo is going to be very insightful for that. On Monday, the demo will have a very basic single player, just drive around kind of mode where you drive on your own. I think there's 3 levels. One where you drive on your own to get a feel for the car. The second one is driving with like a couple of AI cars, and then the third one is with the like horde of 200 AI cars, which is meant to be silly. But you can make your own tracks. You can join games online. You can play split screen locally. You can play split screen online if you want in Stunt Derby. You can have your friends at home play 4 people on a server against other people. You can play on a Steam Deck. It is mostly a game that is best played Counter-Strike style with a bunch of friends in a Discord, a LAN style. We will have one server up. We may have multiple server ups. We're going to watch on Monday basically and see where we're at. But it is we're having trickiness here because right now we have to like create a second Steam app ID for the demo. And we're trying to make sure that the people who have the demo and the people who have the alpha can play on the same servers if the Steam IDs are different. So there's a couple of like last minute technical things we're doing at the moment. Also the UI is getting redesigned. I'm doing that at the moment. So there's a bunch of things going into it. So that's that. Frank's video on the mix. I feel like I lost the window today. I think I'll put it up early tomorrow morning. Go check that out. It's all about. Why don't you tell us about it? What's the intro to this video? Because you were supposed to go and play some indie games at the mix for Noclip Crew, but then the fire marshals got involved.
Yeah, this was crazy. So the Media Indie Exchange was a pop-up event in LA. It was a ton of indie games, a bunch of ones that I was looking forward to trying out. We did some research, and then as soon as I parked my car in LA, I checked my phone and I got an email 30 minutes to the event that said the event had been canceled. So my thought was like, is this a technical glitch? Is this a joke? Is this a bug? Sometimes stuff online breaks, whatever. And I walk up to the venue and developers are hauling out computers and TVs. And yeah, the venue that rented the space out, they didn't have their electric fire permits up to code, so they shut the venue down. So my thing was like, well, I just drove up here. I still want to like film something, so I stuck around, and then the night turned into like such a miraculous story, and it was like, I mean, it sucked that it happened, but it was actually uplifting to see the indie games community come together. So the Completionist hosted the event at his place for a crazy stream, and so yeah, it's kind of a cool fly in the wall. It feels like it's like my actual first piece of journalism, where it's like, oh,
Right.
I actually did something. Okay, so but it's all props to the indie games community, the Completionist, the Media Indie Exchange, everyone there who still used that goodwill and energy to put something forward. So I think it's actually inspiring.
It was rad, and it was like, we were like, I got it and was like, oh, this actually fits better on Noclip, because this is actually about development and, like, you know, them showing off their games and all that. It's not just, you know, we try and keep stuff that's like our personal opinion pieces off the site as much as possible, like off Noclip, because it seems like it's a place for not editorializing but more like documenting. So this was definitely the latter. So yeah, it's cool. It'll be fun to stick it up. It's only about 10 minutes long. I would recommend checking it out. It's also a bunch of games listed on there that we did not talk about today that are interesting new indie games. Frank details about 5 of them in detail, and then there's a couple of others. We have links to all of their wishlist Steam page things in the description as well. So if you are into indie games, which I think if you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance you are, go check out the video and check out the description. There's a bunch of really neat games that were shown off by the Mix folks, Justin Woodward, and the Completionist as well. With his many millions of YouTube followers and Twitch streamers. It was really cool for him to do that. Okay, that's it, I think. What else do we have? Yes, if you're in the early access patronage. Oh, I'll stick up early access your video for those folks today. That's what I'll do.
Cool.
That'll be perfect. You can go check out the Infinity Ward Tour. The tape stuff, I think I'm going to wait until a couple of weeks until we're done with this week and we're done with... the next week is definitely Stunt Derby week around here on Noclip, so there's a lot of that stuff. I'm definitely feeling like a little bit anxious about needing to get new patrons in here at the moment, so in my head I'm like wanting to make sure that the launch day is good weather, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So if you like our work and you're able to support us, please do. But if you're not able to support us, whenever we put up that trailer for the Tapes project and we start talking about it and release a bunch of our big things that we've saved, it'd be a massive help if you could, you know, post it in your forums, on your subreddits, share it on social media, watch the video, like it, and just help us get the word out, because I think that's a big part of this. It's a big effort that we're going to spend a lot of time, and I think it's critically important for the history of video games. But the more support we have, the better, be that monetarily or just signal and getting the word out of this big project. So I'll let you know when that's all happening. That's a podcast, gentlemen. 2-hour podcast. Never done it before. We should have E3 every week.
Yeah. It's the summer of games. The spirit is, you know.
Summer of Games 2022 continues well into
Exactly,
2023.
Beautiful. The shadow of years past continues to haunt us, not just in the air we breathe, but also the summer games fests we enjoy. Godspeed. Frank, what are you doing for the rest of your day?
I can ride my bike again, finally.
Woo,
Yes.
don't fucking
So-
break your other arm.
I know. I'm going slow. I'm being cautious. I'm going slow. And then also, they announced for that game, what was it? Metal Hellsinger, that shoot 'em up rhythm game. They announced there is Paramore DLC
Oh
that just
my
came out
God.
this week.
Ladies
So
and gentlemen,
I have
they
to
got
get it.
him.
I have to get it. I have to get it.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go. Hook, line, and sinker. Now all they need is what was that band, the bassist from that video game developer? I'm trying to think.
Oh,
what
Cut
band.
Copy?
Cut Copy, and then Jeremy's in.
Yeah.
Although they're probably not
it-
metal enough, I'm guessing.
That's true. No, they're kind of like a pop band.
Okay, that's fair.
The other bands in there are Gorillaz, Muse, Depeche Mode, Disturbed.
Oh.
Yeah, and a few more.
Muse. I fuck with Disturbed. Disturbed are like the most embarrassing band in the world. But I fuck with them. There's a great. I listen to a new metal podcast called the POD Cast. POD
Wow.
with the dots and cast with a backwards K or with a K.
Awesome.
And they review a different new metal album every month. And I think they did Believe, or maybe what was the one with Stupefy on it? The first one. Down with the Sickness, is that what it was called? I don't think that was the name of the album. I forget. Maybe it was just self-titled. That one they did maybe, and it was David Draymond is just such a dork. He's just such a weird ego guy. Apparently he's chilled out a little bit now, but we talked about it when the Midjourney stuff. There was that one video they did for Bad Man.
What a
You
good
know?
title.
Bad Man. You could probably just imagine that song, because it's just like whenever you listen to him, it's just like, you know what I mean? It's just like half screaming and half melody.
That sounded like Meatloaf is how I would describe
Oh, did it really? Yeah.
That was like
Thank you,
that was a spot on Meatloaf impression that you somehow landed on.
And the Disturbed also have this theme of like lots of their songs are about like tearing down the system, and it's been like some of these songs are quite old. We've not done it yet. It's kind of like, you know, you're listening to like fucking, you know, whatever song, and they're like, we're gonna change, our generation's gonna change it. So it's like, fuck man, you're in your 50s now.
We're gonna vote for Al Gore. You're like, oh, Jesus, guys.
Yeah, guess it didn't work out. Disturbed, yeah, I'll fuck with that. Muse for sure. Muse is good.
Hell yeah.
Muse is up there with the best bands, with 3 band members in the world, I think. Them and the Bee Gees. All right, that's the podcast, everyone. Oh, sorry, Jeremy, what are you doing for the rest of your day?
First, I must regretfully inform that Bennett Foddy quit Cut Copy in 2004, so I've never crossed paths with him.
Oh, wow. Okay, it was a different bass player you were enjoying that day.
I guess so. I was not the bass stylings of Bennett Foddy.
Damn.
Today, I will be convincing you that Earthbound is one of the greatest first 30 minutes of a video game ever released.
There you go. Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Is that what we're playing, the first 30 minutes?
We are going to, although to pull back the curtain slightly, there is a natural breaking point that I would like to end at, and it's just a little bit longer than the video should be. So I'm anytime you try, if you try to end the video, if you say, well, that seems like, I'm going to cut you off and I'm going to say, you know, right over here there's another guy who we could, you know what I mean?
Okay, cool. It sounds good.
Yeah.
We can trim it if we want to.
Yeah.
I was thinking we might do the extended cuts for this for patrons as well, if they're good. I can't tell if it's gonna be good japes for the whole thing or not.
Cool.
I'm looking forward to playing Earthbound though. In terms of documentaries, stuff's a little bit slowed down because of all these stunt derby and tape stuff. Vampire Survivors, I am editing currently. I did a bunch of work on it yesterday. Immortality, I think we mentioned before, is about 90 minutes long. I interviewed Natalie Watson for that last week, so that's the last interview just to plug into Jeremy's edit. So that's coming pretty well. And I feel like the one that suffered the most from the past couple of months has been Dwarf Fortress, just because it's such a big story and it's taking a lot of time, and then all these other ones keep jumping in front of it a little bit. And it's one I don't want to fuck up, and it's also one I feel like if we released it a year from now, that would be fine too. It's kind of like an evergreen story in a way. But we will not release it a year from now. We'll get it done. I'm making my way through these slowly but surely. And we do actually have a project maybe next month. We have a couple of stuff lined up for August, which are cool. And we have one maybe next month that will require me and Frank taking a plane somewhere quite far, which hopefully will happen. We've been talking about it for a while now. And it might actually end up being 2 projects, both of which people will lose their minds over, I feel like. But we're in the negotiation phase on both of them at the moment. So no rest for the wicked over here. All right, that's a podcast. Thanks very much, everyone. If you like this one, drop us a review. See you next week. Take care of yourselves. Bye.